to this, another episode of 3D Prototyping in Unity. My name is Kasanas. In the last episode, we took a look at a 3D package and importing a camera that you created in a 3D package into Unity. And that's great. You guys can use those cameras. You can create all your cameras in 3D and import them in Unity to create any of your cinematic scenes or any of your kind of cut scenes or anything like that you want to do. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at actually creating a cinematic intro. Okay, it's going to be a very simplistic, straightforward cinematic intro, and we'll do it from beginning to end. All right, guys, let's get started. Okay, guys, so we're going to build ourselves a really simple cinematic right now. All I did to create this initial scene, I took my gameplay video and I made a duplicate copy of it and I called it intro. And then I stripped out everything that I do not need. So right now all I have left is my directional light, my environment, my player, and my main camera. And the main camera has been stripped of everything else it had. It's just the main camera now. There's no longer a hierarchy associated with it. And the player has been stripped down so that it is now just an animator, a rigid body, and a capsule collider. I've got my player rotated at 90 degrees, so he's looking along the hallway that I want him to walk down. And I have it set up so that the use gravity has been turned off for the rigid body. Now, there's a couple of things that I need to do first of all to get my character moving. I am using treadmill animation, and all I want is my character to walk along this hallway. So I'm going to have to set up a brand new animation controller to get him walking, and I'm going to have to set up some kind of function to actually get him, or some kind of class that's going to get him actually physically moving. If you are using a root motion animation instead of treadmill like I am, you'll simply be able to set up your animation controller and have your character walk along the path. Okay, so for now, let's take a look at this. All I'm going to do is let's just set up our animation controller first of all. So I'll go to my animation and I will go to create animation controller, and I'll simply call this intro AC. That's what I'll call it, intro AC. All right, and I'm going to go to my player and I'm going to make sure intro AC is now associated with the controller. And I'll go to my animator actually window right here, and I'm simply going to grab my model, find my player, walk, drag it, and drop it in place, so it's now the default. If we go back to our scene and I hit play right now, my player is going to be walking along. Well, he's actually animated walking, he's not actually physically moving. So that's great. That's what I want to happen. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our character to actually physically move. My entire intro is going to be the character walking down this hallway and several camera cuts as the player moves along. Obviously, if you wanted to make a more complicated intro, you could. It's not any more difficult than what I'm doing here. You just have to set up more animation states than I'm doing, and I don't really want to do that right now. So for intro purposes, or for introduction purposes to this concept, I'm just gonna have the character walking along the hallway. Okay, let's go to our player and let's create a brand new script. Let's call it intro movement. We'll just call it that. All right, and double click to open it up, and it opened over here. So let's grab it, and here's our intro movement. Now, for intro movement, we don't need a whole lot in here. To be honest, we don't need any of this. We don't need this anyway. Let's dump this, and we only need a couple of things. We need a reference to a rigid body, so we'll call it we'll say a rigid body. We'll call myRB. And we also need a speed that we want our character walking at. Float, and we'll call it move speed. And I don't remember what value. Let's put it at set it equal to 1.6. I can't remember if that's the right value or not. But we'll put it at 1.6 anyway, have our character at least moving along. Alright, so that's our movement speed. And all we're going to do in our start is we're going to set up our reference to my rigid body. Is going to be equal to, we're going to use our get component. You guys know how to do this. You've done it a million times. And it's a rigid body I'm looking for. Boom, 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 boom. All right, and we want to actually get our character moving. Okay, so myRB dot velocity is going to be equal to a new vector 3, and it's simply going to be the move speed and 0 and 0. All right, and that'll get my character going. Now, let me file save this. Make sure if you guys are doing it this way here, if you want to set your velocity once and not actually have it be dragged down or whatever, you're going to set up make sure that you've got your drag set to 0 and make sure you've got your use gravity turned off. All right, now did I save that? I don't remember if I saved that. File, I did. Great. If now all we have to do is check it out. Let's hit play and see. Play. My character is moving along. I don't remember if that's the right speed or not. He seems to be going pretty slow. But he's slipping a little bit. It's probably fine. You know what? As an animator, it's going to bother me that he's slipping a little bit, but I don't care for now. I'm not going to take the time to actually go through and and perfect that value. Especially because we don't really need it in this case here. We don't really care. What we're going to do now is we're going to set up a number of points. And there, like I said, there's a billion different ways to actually go about and set up your animation. All right. In the last video, we set up animation. We imported animation from Maya into Unity for our camera. And if you do that, that's great. If you want a moving camera of some kind, you could go in and you could import your animation from Maya into Unity, or you could come into here. You could set up an animation controller on your camera or a group on your camera, whatever, so you have animation on it, and you can move your camera around. We're not going to do that right now. I'll leave that slightly more complicated setup to you guys. All we're going to do is set up our camera switches. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to set it up so we're just doing simple cuts. We will cut to a new location, a new field of view, etc. At the new location, a new rotation. That's all we're going to do within here. And we're going to do it based on how quickly this character is walking. So I'm going to set up a number of points that as the player crosses a point, it's going to trigger the camera itself to move. And you don't have to do it that way. If you don't want to, you could set it up so that there's you're just switching animation states, or maybe you've got one long animation and you just started going and everything works at the same time. There are a bunch of different ways to actually make one of these simple cinematics. All right, we're going to take a look at the simplest way right now, and I'm going to let you guys do the more complicated ways as you wish. Not even more complicated, just different ways. But as we go, I'll just say, listen, you could do it like this here if you want to. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a number of different points the character is going to cross, and when they cross it, we will move the camera. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up some functionality on my actual camera. I'm going to add a component to my camera, and I will add a brand new script that I will call intro camera controller. Doesn't matter what you call it. Intro camera controller. All right, and let's double click to open that up. And there's my error. Boop. Goodbye. Come back. All right, so there's not a whole lot we actually need in here. We're just going to set up a number of functions. We can actually even get rid of all this. We don't need any of this. I'm just going to set up a bunch of different functions within here to allow us to manipulate our camera in some way. So if you were going to go through and have this based on animation instead of simple cuts and locked off cameras, you'd go in and you might change your intro camera controller so that it actually had a link to your animator, and you set off your triggers or whatever you're going to use in order to change your animation states. In this case here, I'm just going to add a couple of public functions. I'll add a public void function that I'll call update location. And update location is going to take a vector 3. That we'll simply call loc. All right, and all I'm going to do within here is change the location of my camera. That's it. Transform dot position is going to be equal to loc. That's it. All right, perfect. I'm going to add one of these for the rotation as well. Public void update rotation. And again, it's going to take in this case here, we'll take a vector 3. We'll take a vector 3 instead of a quaternion. Lots of people find those more pleasant to work with. So we'll actually just add in a vector 3. And all we're going to do is we're going to set our transform dot rotation. Oops, not root. Dot rotation. Equal to, and we'll set it equal to to a quaternion dot Euler and the Euler of our rot or whatever you want to call it. All right, and let's set up one last one. Public void, and will allow us to change, let's say, our field of view. So we'll set our field of view. All right, and that'll allow us to change how the camera looks as well. And we'll simply take a float that we'll call field of view. Okay, and boom, boom, boom. And in here, we'll simply get our component from our camera. We'll get our camera component, get component, and we're looking for our camera. Camera. Has this been depreciated? No, there should be a capital C camera. Where is it? Ah, there it is. Capital C camera. Thought we were gone for a second. Capital C camera. We're looking for this, and all we're going to do is we're going to set our oops, sorry, I have to put this in here. Our field of view. All right, and we're going to set that equal to our FOV. Now, you could go through and you could add in a bunch more public functions within here. I'm just going to save this for now. File save. A bunch more public functions in here that are going to allow you to go in and change whatever you want within your camera. Turn on special effects, turn off anything you might want to do, you could do within here. All right, just set up public functions to allow you to go in and manipulate this as you see fit. Or you could simply, like I said, simply have a link to your animator and make changes to the animator, change the animation states to allow you to go into different states in your animation and have different views that way. Have an animated camera. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm doing it in a really simple way where I'm just going to update the location, the rotation, and the field of view, and we're going to do simple cuts with locked off cameras. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So I've saved this, file save. Now, once I have this available to me, it's already been saved. Once I have this available to me, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a number of different locations that are going to allow us to actually manipulate those public functions. And to do so, I'm just going to simply create a brand new game object, create an empty, and let's call this, let's call it camera. Let's call it camera change location. Terrible name. Camera change location. All right, that's a terrible name, but that's what we'll call it. I don't feel like making up any special names today. All right, boom. Camera change location. And what we're going to add to this is a number of things. First of all, we're going to add in a trigger of some kind. So we'll just use a physics, and I'll just use a box collider. Okay, and let me just zero this out so it's in an appropriate location. And in my situation, I just want the box collider to stretch across the hallway. Okay, so I want it to be large enough that I can stretch across a hallway. I can see it right there. I'm gonna move it. So it has a. Let me just stretch it. So it has a right there. That's probably fine. And I will stretch it up in the Y. Okay. It doesn't really have to be that large, but whatever. There's our. Oh, I'm actually stretching the wrong thing here. Boom, boom, boom. I just want to move these things here. Let's make this thing here 10. Not in the Z at all. Not in the X at all. Sorry, in the Z. 10. I'm changing just my actual collider, not my transform. I made a mistake there. All right, let's make this 10 tall. And let's put it at 10. So it's at. Oops, sorry, 5. I mean. So it's at an appropriate location. That's fine. All I want is my character to be able to walk through that. It doesn't matter how big it is, and this is going to be actually a trigger. Okay, so whenever our character walks through this, it's going to allow us to set off a function of some kind. Okay, and I'm going to add a brand new component that I'm going to call. Let's add a brand new script, and let's call this new script. Man, I have no ideas today. Camera instructions. Camera instructions. That's fine. Instructions. Camera instructions. All right, and let's open that guy up. Make it minimal again and open it up. All right, perfect. So we're going to want to go in now and add. Where is it here? Here it is. We're going to want to go in now and add. Where'd my camera instructions? Didn't open. What the what? Let's try it again. Close you. Camera instructions. Camera instructions. There it is. There's my problem. Alright, let's make this bigger. View, zoom in, view, zoom in, view, zoom in, and view, zoom in. Perfect. Okay, our camera instructions here, we're going to want to add a bunch of stuff. We're going to want to add just the things that are going to manipulate the public functions that we currently have set up on our camera itself. In that regard, we're going to need a couple of things here. We're going to need a public link to our actual camera, public reference to our camera. So let's call it let's go our game object, and we'll call it the camera. All right, and let's put in a public vector 3 that we'll call location. So this is where we're going to move our camera to. Let's put in another public vector 3 that we'll call rotation. Rotation. And that's what we're rotating our camera to. And lastly, let's put in, because I think we only added these 3, a float that we'll call FOV. All right, and that's our field of view. So each one of these values here is going to allow us to manipulate one of the public functions that are available on our actual camera. Okay, and we don't need any of this. We can dump all of this. All right, the only thing we actually need is we need our void on trigger enter. So whenever our character enters this this collider is when whenever it enters the trigger, that's when we're actually going to make our switch for the camera. All right, so we need our collider that we'll call other. Boom, boom, boom. And lastly, all we're going to do is we're going to check first of all to see if it's our player, because other things can be moving about your scene. Who knows? Other.tag equals quotations player. So make sure your player is actually tagged as player. If it is, then we actually want to move the camera. And first thing we're going to do is we're gonna actually set up the camera itself. So we're going to set up so that we're looking for, on our actual camera, we're looking for our appropriate function that we called, what did we call it? We called it intro camera controller. All right. So our intro camera controller that we'll call the instructions, I guess, instructions, and we'll set that equal to the camera dot get component, and obviously we're looking for our intro controller. Bang, bang, bang. All right, there we go. And once we have this, we can simply go through and we can use the public functions that we have available there. The public functions were called update location, update rotation, and set field of view. Okay, so in here we're going to say the instruction, I should say, dot, and we're going to use set. No, it wasn't called set. It was update location, and we're going to put some value in here. Right now, we're going to put the location in there. All right, we're going to say the instruction dot update rotation. It's going to take our rotation, and lastly, we're going to say the instruction dot set field of view to a particular FOV. Okay, now I'm going to file save this. All right, that's perfectly fine. And we really don't need to do anything else to the actual object over here. Once we've got that set up, we've got ourselves these camera change locations. We can drag it into our prefabs. So we've got that set up anytime we want. We can dump it in place. Let's actually go through and change this as well, just so we can always see where they are. Bang. So we can always see where they are. All right, and once you've got one of these things in place, now all it's going to be about is setting up these appropriate values. Right now we have no values in there. We have to decide where we want our actual camera to go. So what I'm going to do, in order for me to set up this initial shot, what I'm going to do is put my player somewhere where I want him. Let's move him back here so we get some walking. Let's say he walks from here. All right, I'm going to set up my camera in its initial location, and with my initial shot. With initial shots, you normally want to have a nice establishing shot so everyone can see where the character is. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to manually put this in place. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, minus 90 degrees, I guess, for now, just to see where I kind of like it. Minus 90, and maybe we'll just use this. I don't love that as an establishing shot. Let's move it off to the side like this. All right, and let's say this is going to be our establishing shot. It's kind of a low angle. We don't have a roof or anything like that, but who cares right now? This is going to be our initial position, okay? And I'm perfectly fine with this. So our camera is going to be here. What we have to do now is decide where exactly we want our camera to switch. Let's say we want our camera to switch again when our character crosses this location. I'm going to move my change location. Let's say to right here. All right, let's say to right here. This is giving my change location. This location is actually equal to, if we take a look at it, is actually equal to our position is minus 1.5, sorry, 1.15 in the x is at 0, 0. We have to determine where exactly our camera is going to be. All right, and I'm just going to, for now, I'll just create a brand new camera for now so we can see it, just so I can see what it looks like. And I'll dump this afterwards. Let's say I want my new camera location to be as this character walks across. I don't like this as a field of view, so I'm going to narrow my field of view like this. And I'm going to be at about head height, let's say. That's about head height when my character walks across. Let's say I like this shot, okay? So my location is going to be, for my camera location, inside of there, my values within here are going to be the same as this camera here. So 0.71 and 3.98, camera location, is going to be 0.7. Well, I'm writing the wrong thing down here. No, escape. Control Z that. Control Z. It's going to be here. Our location is 0.71. Let's put it at 4. It doesn't really matter. 4 for our Y. And our Z was negative 6.5. Negative 4.65 is what our value was. Okay, and our rotation in this situation for our camera was 0, 0, 0. All right, so that's perfectly fine. We'll leave it. And our field of view we liked was 38. Okay, come in here and we're going to set up a value of 38. Okay, now what should happen if we actually watch this as our character walks across. Let's dump this camera. I don't need it anymore because, well, let's just put it at a value of -2, so we're not actually seeing it. When we hit play right here, we're going to see this thing down here change. Let's make this a little bigger so we can see it. We're going to see it actually change within our actual camera, okay, when the character crosses that line. If everything's working out fine, when I hit play, which I'll do right now, play, our character will start walking. We have our first cut down here. As our character triggers... He didn't trigger it. He didn't trigger it. Why? You know why he didn't? Because I didn't put a camera in there. Let's put a camera in there. Boom. Let's try it again. Hit play. As our character walks across, boom, we trigger it. That's obviously a terrible camera angle, but we can see how we actually got our shot to trigger. All right. I'm going to move it over a bit too because I don't like it where it is. And I'm going to change. Let's just move this camera down a bit so we can see it a little better. I didn't like that shot. Let's put it down here. Let's actually put it way down low like this, and let's give it a little bit of rotation because I did not like that shot, and I'm probably not going to like this either. Actually, maybe, yeah, let's do it like this. It doesn't really matter. Let's go in and change our camera location. So this now has a value of -16.5 for our rotation. -16.5 for our rotation. And we had our actual location of 157. Yeah, that's all it's changed, 157. So instead of 4, it was 1.57. Is that correct? Is that correct? That's correct. All right, so that's good now. We've got appropriate FOV, etc. Let's just watch it one more time. Let's make sure this is, yeah, that's probably fine. Let's try it one more time. Hit play. Our character is now walking along in our establishing shot. Boom, there's our camera cut to a new location. I hate this as well. But anyway, guys, that's it. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to set up a couple of different camera angles here so you can see what they look like. You can see how it switches. And once I'm done that, I'll come back and I'll show it to you. All right, guys? I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I took a few minutes here and I created my little intro. It's not even really an intro yet. We'll take a look in the next episode because this is getting very long again. We'll take a look in the next episode how to add in our title screen and our music, etc. We're going to end this episode right now. Basically, I set it up. It's got 4 locations, the initial location and 3 camera switches. No animation on any of them. You guys go ahead and set that up if you want to add animation on there. And you could have done it with multiple cameras too. I did everything with one camera where I moved my main camera around. If you had really wanted to, you could have set this up so that each camera location had its own camera associated with it, added your camera move in there. There are so many different ways to actually do this. It is shocking. Anyway, guys, here's mine really quick. I just did it really simple. Establishing shot like this. We've got ourselves the view of the computer here. We see the computer in this next shot. We see that he's being filmed. He walks across. We cut to this behind the shot. We're still seeing the thing in there. And lastly, to our final screen where he walks through. We're ultimately going to put our title screen right here in the next episode. Alright, so I kept it really, really simple. All done with one camera, makes it mobile safe, yeah, everything's really simple, guys. You could really complicate complicate this if you want. You could make yourself really, really sexy looking intros with instead of using locked off cameras, you add yourself some camera animation in there. Either utilizing the last video where we brought it in from Maya, or simply animating it right here in Unity. Anyway, guys, I hope that's helpful. In the next episode, we'll take a look at adding our sound. It'll be a really short episode. Take a look at adding sound and adding in our screen, our intro screen, and then our intro will be done. Anyway, guys, and obviously we'll move into the game afterwards. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked that. If you did, let me know with a thumbs up. If you didn't, a thumbs down is perfectly fine. I know there's a lot of different ways to do this, and maybe it's not exactly what you're looking for, and that's cool. I'm trying to keep this at a level for beginners. If you're already well advanced and you're past this point, then I'm really sorry, but if not, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. Alright, guys? Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below, and if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourselves a wonderful day, everyone.